Please remain on the line. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Order. Please note that pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, this meeting of the City Council will be conducted via remote participation. We will post an audio recording, audio-video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of these proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting on the City of Somerville website and local cable access government channels. And now please rise for the prayer and pledge of allegiance.
God, grant this City Council the serenity to accept the things that cannot be changed, the courage to change the things that can be changed, and the wisdom to know the difference. And now let us join in a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. And please call the roll.
And this is roll call. Councilor Niedergang.
Here.
Councilor White. Councilor Valentine.
Here.
Councilor Ewan-Campen.
Here.
Councilor Davis.
Here.
Councilor Strezzo.
Present.
Councilor Klingon.
Present.
Councilor Mba.
Present.
Councilor Scott.
Present.
Councilor Rossetti. Councilor Rossetti. And Councilor McLaughlin.
Yeah.
That is 10 councilors present and 1 absent, Mr. President. We do have a quorum.
All right. Do we have any moments of silence? I see Councilor Rossetti and Councilor Klingon.
Thank you, Mr. President. This evening, I ask that we please remember Mary Hayes Murphy. She died September 7th, the exact day of her birthday, 98 years young. Was the beloved wife of 63 years to the late J. Patrick Murphy, survived by 6 children, devoted mother to Dennis Murphy and his wife Cynthia Murphy Foley, and Marion Coulombe David of Somerville, and daughter-in-law Mary Lou Murphy of Barrington, Rhode Island. She was survived by 6 grandchildren and 7 great-grandchildren. She was a secretary at the Somerville Public School Department, and she will be memorialized at George Doherty Funeral Home next Tuesday. One of her grandchildren also is a member of our police department. So I ask, please remember Mary Hayes Murphy this evening during the meeting. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Klingon.
Thank you, Mr. President. For you, I ask that we all remember Thomas C. Killeen. Thomas passed away on September 2nd at the age of 82. He was the beloved husband of Ellie Killeen, 58 years, father to Tara, Thomas, Sean's wife Christy, Michael and his wife Kristen, daughter Shannon and her husband Dennis, and father-in-law to James Shannon. He's the son of the late Julia and John Killeen. He's survived by his sisters Mary McDonald and Joan DiNapoli, predeceased by his siblings Claire, Jackie, Edna, Patsy, Barbara, Betsy, Peggy, and Richard, loving uncle of several nieces and nephews. So I've known the Killeen family for many, many years. I know his wife, Ellie, was just up here recently. He was also a foster parent, obviously living in the home. He was a construction worker and just an overall great human being, amazing person. Just a little bit about him. More than anything, he was a proud Air Force veteran, and he loved and served his country from 1959 to 1963. He cherished his camaraderie with fellow veterans, Tom, and was grateful for friend He was a grateful friend of Bill W. He was an avid lover of sports, Boston sports, especially the Red Sox and the Patriots. His hobbies included writing stories, songs, and poems. He absolutely loved to sing, but the most cherished of all was spending time with his beloved grandchildren, Mariah, CJ, Bria, Courtney, Shay, Karen, and Denny Monroe. He was known for a sense of humor, mentorship, and wisdom, and his humility is exemplified in his words. I admit it, I accept it, and I remain teachable. He'll be missed by so many people. They have such a big family, the Colleens, and so many people love Tombo Combo, as they called him, as Aaron called him. And one last interesting fact, I guess he was a fixture at Harvard, over at Harvard at the chess tables. When I was in line at the services, I met a gentleman who from Russia, who knew Tom well from playing chess, and Tom will be missed. I just want to remember the Colleen family and Thomas this evening. Thank you.
Councilor Stroza would like to sign on. Any further moments of silence? Seeing none, please rise for a moment of silence. Please be seated. Next item.
Item number 3 is approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of August 26th, 2021.
All right. This item would be laid on the table for approval. Councilor White would like to announce that he is present. He had tech problems. And before we move on further, there's a few items people would like to take out of order. There's a request to take item number 51 out of order, which is the mayor's request for a teen health center. And then Councilor White would like to take item 56 to 86 out of order, as well as item 24, which are involving Tufts lodging licenses, and the communication from Tufts as well. Are there any other items that people would like to take out of order? Seeing none, we will do the, let's see, we're going to do the citations in the public hearing first, and then we'll take those items out of order.
Excellent. So item number 4 is a citation by Councilor McLaughlin and the mayor commending Mary Alice Lally on 50 years of employment with the city.
I don't know what to say to 50 years. It's an extremely long time. I hope I don't have to work that long. And I just take this moment to thank Mary for dedicating a whole life to the city of Somerville. I know the entire council would like to sign on to this as well. And Mary, you in the audience, would you like to say a few words? I don't see you. Well, let's see if it's on the staff. I don't see Mary here, but we all wish you very well and thank you very much for your service. The entire council would like to sign on, and Councilor Rossetti would like to speak. Oh, you're muted, Councilor Rossetti.
Trying. Okay. Sorry about that, sir. Mr. President, thank you. I hope Alice is listening, because I want to also thank her personally. My parents, deceased now, firefighter. My mom would only trust Mary Alice any and every time she had to reach out. And Mary Alice had the patience of a saint. And turn the clock ahead to today, when I too have to go down and ask questions. I haven't asked for her specifically, but I've had the honor of sometimes having her service me, and ending employee here in our city. And thank you, Mr. President, for putting this citation forward. Thank Mary Alice Lally on behalf of myself and my family.
All right, thank you. Seeing no further comment, this item will be laid on the table for approval.
And item number 5 is a grant of location submitted by Comcast to install 275 feet of conduit in Pearl Street, starting from a Comcast manhole, 100 feet to a proposed sidewalk vault, then 5 feet to a point near 85 Pearl Street, 20 feet to 81 Pearl Street, and 75 feet to another proposed sidewalk vault, then 10 feet to a point of pickup near 77 Pearl Street, and a final point of pickup at 75 Pearl Street.
All right, I now declare this public hearing open. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on this item? Please use a little hand icon. I see, let's see, Dave Fwelling. Dave, I have you unmuted on my side.
Good evening, Dave Fwelling, Comcast, 9 Forbes Road, Woburn, Mass. I would like to speak in favor of the Comcast petition to place 275 feet of conduit and 2 17 by 30 vaults on Pearl Street.
All right, is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak on this item? Please use the little hand icon. Seeing no further comment, I now declare this public hearing closed. Is there any comments from the City Council? Hearing none, this item is laid on the table for approval.
And the next item will be item number 51, out of order. A request of the mayor requesting authorization to enter into and execute a service agreement with the Cambridge Health Alliance to operate a school-based healthcare center and an agreement to license surplus space for that purpose.
Okay, so this item was requested from the city, and I know there's Mr. Jeff Curley will be in the audience to address any issues here. I'd like to sponsor Jeff to speak to give details on this. And let's find him. Jeff, you I send you an unmute request, Jeff. You can unmute yourself.
Thank you, President McLaughlin. And thank you, the counselors for allowing me to be here tonight. This is a continuation of a partnership that we have had with Cambridge Health Alliance to provide school-based services, clinical services to the students at Somerville High School. They provide an incredible range of support to our students, from mental health support, dental care, eye care. They're helping us with vaccinations and all number of things. This is an agreement that just constitutes a continuation of our relationship and would allow them to continue to use the space in the beautiful new Somerville High School building to support our students for all of those different kind of clinical care that they need.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any comments? I see Councilor Strezzo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just through you to Mr. Curley, Dr. Curley. Does this center also provide assistance with and information with reproductive health and to students? And can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely, thank you. Through you, Mr. President, they provide a range of supports for reproductive health. They support referrals for dating violence. They do prenatal care. They do reproductive counseling and supporting our students on all number and range of things. It's an incredible asset. They're a model that I wish all schools in the country had, and I'm proud that it's a partnership that we have here in Somerville.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Ballantyne.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say I wholeheartedly support this. This is well needed at Somerville High School for our students. And I just think that, as Dr. Curley said, it is certainly a model that more schools should have. Thank you.
Very good. Would you like to make a motion to approve?
Yes, Mr. President. Motion to approve.
All right, Councilor Ballantyne moves to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, this requires a roll call vote, so let's do it now. And Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Excellent, thank you. So this is a roll call vote on item 51, requesting authorization to enter into and execute a service agreement with Cambridge Health Alliance and license surplus space for that purpose. Councillor Niedergang.
Yes.
Councillor White.
Yes.
Councillor Valentine.
Yes.
Councillor Ewan-Campen.
Yes.
Councillor Davis.
Yes.
Councillor Strezzo.
Yes.
Councillor Klingon.
Yes.
Councillor Mba.
Yes.
Councillor Scott.
Yes.
Councillor Rossetti.
Yes.
And Councillor McLaughlin.
Yes.
All members are in favor, Mr. President. That item is approved.
Okay, next item.
That will bring us to the next set of items, which were items 56 through 86, lodging houses for Tufts University.
All right, so I got Councilor White as the chair of this committee, and in the audience, we also have Doug Kress from the Public Health Department and Rocco DeRocco from Tufts University. I'll start with you, Councilor White.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to waive the readings of items 56 through, is it 88 or 86? I'd ask the clerk.
86.
86. All right, so I'd ask that the readings be waived, and they're basically all of the renewals of Tufts Lodging House licenses. And in connection with this, I had asked that Mr. DeRicco from Tufts be present to explain to all members of the council, as well as folks in the community, what the Tufts procedure is going to be as far as COVID-19 testing and also vaccinations. And also I'd want to have Mr. Kress available in case members of the council have any questions with regard to the protocol that Tufts has established. So with the permission of the president, I'd ask Mr. DeRicco to describe to members of the committee the process that Tufts is going to follow with regard to vaccinations and testing.
All right, Councilor White would like to sponsor Mr. DeRicco to speak. Seeing no objections. Before that, I see a comment from Councilor Klingon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to, I don't know who's been following the Tufts dining workers fight, but it is my intention this evening to vote no on any permits until those workers are paid what is there, what should have been theirs. 131 Tufts dining workers were not offered jobs this summer by the university. They weren't given any heads up. Usually, if they were going to be laid off, they've given some time. They haven't been able to collect unemployment benefits. And, you know, this is an institution. I mean, so I have this thing at Tufts. President Tony Monaco gets paid for 3 months of work, $273,847. A Tufts dining worker gets paid for 3 months of work, $9,594. And they also just paid $2 million to have a tea station named after them. So to have the Tufts name. So, I mean, this to me is egregious. I can't support an institution that doesn't support its workers who were there for them through the pandemic when they had to individually wrap every meal and deliver them to students. They went above and beyond, and then they were treated like this. And I'm just not gonna, I'm tired of having to come to the table with Tufts on the other side, you know, seeing once again how they treat their employees and how they treat their workers. And I will not be voting in favor of these permits. And I ask all of you to do the same, unless they can guarantee us this evening or somehow they can get it in, you know, down that they're going to take care of these dining workers. Thank you.
All right, I see Councilor Strezzo would like to comment, but before we jump down this rabbit hole, let's let Mr. DeRicco speak very quickly, and maybe he can address some of these concerns as well.
I would make it brief, Mr. President.
If you can make it very brief, go ahead.
You know what? Second, never mind. I'll wait. Thank you.
Okay. Rocco, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will address Councilor White's request first. So Tufts University is committed to the health, safety, and security of our neighbors, students, faculty, and staff, and we greatly appreciate our partnership with our host communities. And our plans have been driven by data, but are built to be flexible given the uncertainties that we currently face in this pandemic. Major elements of our plan include mandatory weekly COVID testing of students, faculty, and staff, daily health screening, quarantine and isolation procedures and policies, the monitoring of early warning indicators associated with COVID-19, carefully thought out move-in plans, and vaccine mandates. All students, faculty, staff, and visitors are required to wear masks when inside campus facilities, and regardless of vaccination status, except when, of course, they're eating or drinking. And all students, faculty, and staff are required to be vaccinated against COVID-19 unless they qualify for a religious or medical exemption under Massachusetts state law. In regards to the dining workers, there were no layoffs over the summer. In fact, senior leadership at Tufts took pay cuts so that there wouldn't be any layoffs on our Medford Somerville campus. The university pays its staff, including the dining workers, for the work that they perform. Dining workers staff in our last round of negotiations fought for and won the right to be academic year employees. So they're paid for their work during the academic year. And during the summer, most of them are on leave, but the ones that do work do get paid. What happened last summer was that Governor Baker made an exemption and allowed workers who were coming back and were academic year employees to receive unemployment benefits. This year, the emergency order was lifted, and the governor and the Commonwealth, I should say, decided not to extend that same right. And we just want to be clear that it's a decision made by the state, not the university, if they qualify for unemployment benefits. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Strezzo.
Thank you, Mr. President. With that in mind, yeah, I think I'm, from what I've heard from Harvard University and other universities throughout the region, Tufts had a choice. Tufts made a different choice, so I'm going to stand with my colleague, Councilor Klingon, on this one.
Any further questions or comments? Councilor Ballantyne.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too am going to stay with the side with the dining workers. I'm going to support them. From emails and documents that I've seen copies of, I will just say that I believe that Tufts made a decision that works for them, but I'm going to support the dining workers. Thank you.
Councilor Niedergay.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've tried to stay out of this, but I'm going to have to speak up. You know, I followed this. Maybe I haven't gotten information that other counselors have, but I've heard from one student at Tufts about this. Haven't heard anything from the union that represents the dining hall workers. I've seen 2 letters from President Monaco, which said exactly what Mr. DeRico said, which is that the unemployment insurance decision was made by the state, not by Tufts, that the union themselves, the employees themselves, had asked to be part-time seasonal employees, and that Tufts had conceded that to them in the negotiations. So I guess I just don't understand. Maybe I'm uninformed. If there's some information I lack, my colleagues, please share it with me. But it seems to me this is unfortunate, but it's due to a decision made by Governor Baker and the state, not by Tufts. So to not grant these licenses for Tufts students to live in these houses because of a completely irrelevant issue in which I think 3 counselors have got the facts wrong would be wrong. So I'm going to be voting yes. Thank you.
Councilor Ba.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will not be supporting this, at this time. I just feel we just came from a forum where, they asked us about about workers. There was a question there. It's so it's something that it's not really often talked about, but I like the way Councilor Klingon really put it. It's a lot at stake, and we need to really prioritize, these workers and treat them fairly. So I will not be supporting this at this time. Thank you.
Any further questions or comments?
Mr.
Mr.
President,
President, if I could just make one more comment. Sorry.
Yes. Well, before you make a comment, I'd like to ask Rocco what would the consequences be of these lodging licenses not getting approved? And then if you can answer that and respond to it in any way you like. And then I see Ms. Racanello would like to speak as well.
Yeah, I don't want to speak to the consequences of them not being approved, but I would say that they've all passed all the regulatory inspections and things that are necessary. So, my interpretation of state law is that, you can hold up a lodging house license or deny it due to inspectional failure, but I don't think you can for other reasons not related to the operation of that lodging house license. The other point I just wanted to mention, and along with Councilor Niedergang's point, is that the union has not filed any challenges to our handling of this issue. Again, I think their issue is with the Commonwealth for not extending their employment benefits, but this is not in violation of our contract with them.
Well, the question I was asking is basically if these don't get approved, are students going to not have a place to live?
Yeah, we have 4,000 students on campus, and without lodging house licenses, they would have to find housing elsewhere.
Okay. I recognize Councilor Ewan Campen, and then I'll sponsor Ms. Racanello to speak.
Thank you, Mr. President. It seems to me that one option we have here that might make sense to me would be to leave these on the table and give counselors an opportunity to reach out to additional workers, representatives of the union, and to look at the licenses in detail. I, in general, tend to defer to the ward counselor, and I also really appreciate the issues that have been raised by my colleagues on behalf of the workers. I'm extremely sympathetic to that. I also, like Councilor Niedergang, have not myself been able to connect directly with workers or their representatives with the union. I would appreciate the opportunity to do that. Absent that, I don't feel personally ready to vote these down, but I certainly would be happy to lay them on the table for the time being to get me some more information.
Ms. Racanello, you would like to speak?
Thank you. Through you, President McLaughlin. I think that Mr. Dorico did cover what I was going to say, but I just wanted to make note that it is also my understanding that the council has to vote on the licenses based on the criteria of the licensing statute and cannot vote down or deny licenses for reasons unrelated to the license. So that was my understanding coming in. I just wanted to put that out there. I don't know if Councilor White may have any more information on that, but that's my understanding of the process. So I just wanted to make that note.
All right. So I see other councilors want to comment again, but it's my intention to refer this to Licenses and Permits Committee so we can address this. And I'd lay it on the table, but then we can't discuss it outside of the council. So I'm going to refer them to Licenses and Permits. People could still make, Councilor White, I see you're the chair, so I'll recognize you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think that's an ideal solution for the concerns that were raised, because clearly with my lawyer's hat on, if we were to deny these on the grounds that were raised, we would lose in a court of law in about 5 seconds. We do, however, have these just submitted to us this evening, and Councilor Ewan Campen raised a good point about having the opportunity to review these. So I think it makes sense for the committee to have the opportunity to review them, and at the same time, there would be time for those city councilors who would want to reach out to the union or whatever, just to find out what the factual situation actually is, and whether in fact there is anything the test could do, or whether this is more a complaint that relates to the relations with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and not tests. So I think we have a License and Permits Committee meeting already scheduled, so we will add this to the agenda.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'm just going to refer this to committee so we can move on. Thank you, Rocco, for attending, and hopefully we'll iron all this out in the future.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, next item.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will also just read for the record that covered item number 24, which is a communication of the mayor conveying the Tufts University COVID-19 preparedness plan for fall 2021.
Yes, thank you very much.
And then that is going to bring us back to item number 6, which is an item that has been withdrawn. And item number 7, a resolution by Councilor Strezzo that the administration consider a foreclosure moratorium for Somerville homeowners and owner-occupied small landlords.
Councilor Strezzo.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is simply this is a resolution. This was brought to me by and a community activist, and I think it's a good consideration to have, just to put it on the record that I think it's really important that we just make it known that there are a lot of those still struggling in our community, and we have additional support still happening at every level, and we have to really recognize that. This is my thoughts and some members of the community's thoughts on this. That is all. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Seeing no further discussion, this item is laid on the table for approval.
And item number 8 is a resolution by Councilor Strezzo that the Somerville Housing Authority establish free Wi-Fi hotspots in all of its residential properties, either in communal areas, resident lounges, or outdoor areas and patios.
Councilor Strezzo.
Thank you, Mr. President. I live in an inclusionary zoning building, and in many apartments and rental units in large buildings throughout the city, Wi-Fi is seen as an expected perk of living in that building. Not in every case, but in many, and at least in resident lounges, there's the offer of Wi-Fi. And this was brought to my attention from some SHA residents, wondering why they don't have the opportunity to have free Wi-Fi in the community. This is very much an equity issue. And I would love to see SHA bring this to our residents. And I think every resident deserves to be able to connect to the internet and get to information. And this is one step toward that. That is all. Thank you.
All right, Councilor Ewan Camper would like to sign on. Any further discussion? Seeing none, this item is laid on the table for approval. Councilor Ballantyne would like to sign on as well.
And item number 9 is an order by Councilors Strezzo and Niedergang that the Commissioner of Public Works replace all the open garbage cans in city parks and on the community path with closed, rat-proof garbage cans.
Councilor Strezzo.
Can you imagine a day in Somerville where some of us are not thinking of the rat problem? Just envision if you could. So this order was brought to my attention, and Councilor Niedergang co-sponsored it, and I think it's a really great question. Why aren't the garbage cans in city parks closed, rat-proof? We know that the rats can easily get in and out of the open garbage cans, and there are so many open garbage cans in our community, and I think we have to take a more aggressive strategy. I do not think that this is the only solution, and I want to make that very extremely clear. This could be a solution, and there has been some dialogue with the administration that this could possibly cost up to millions. So I think that this needs to be, I think we need to explore if it's a possibility of some areas, some of our more notorious rat-infested areas getting preference, and see. If you don't mind, if we could please send this to the Public Utilities Committee.
Okay, I was thinking the rodent subcommittee, since we have plenty of rodent conversations. And I see, let's see, Councilor Davis, Ballantyne, Klingon would like to sign on, and Councilor Klingon would like to sign on to item 8, and Councilor Scott has a comment.
Mr. President, if I may address that.
What's that?
Councilor Scott, if I may. Is that okay? Where are you?
If you'd like to respond, go ahead.
Okay, sorry about that, Councilor Scott. Mr. President, if I may, I like the concept of this being explored still in a very warm climate as we have right now, and where we can have a more, I think that public utilities may be a good fit for this order.
Okay. Councilor
Thank
Scott?
Yes, I'd support that too, because it's just that one meets more than once a year generally. And also, I just want to thank Councilor Strezzo for this. Different constituent, I'm sure, but somebody just last week was talking to me about watching the rats jump in and out of the trash cans in Lincoln Park. And this is one of those where our Big Belly program, you know, we post signs proudly about how that's part of our rat abatement. But if they're just going into the buffet down in the park, I think we're giving them the wrong incentive here. That said, the Big Belly program itself has been fairly costly. So I'm really interested in exploring what other closed container opportunities we have here. And I just am so grateful for the councilor for bringing this to us and happily sign on to it. Thank you.
Scott would like to sign on. Councilor Niedergang?
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Councilor Strezzo, for taking the lead on this. So this was brought up by a constituent of mine in Ward 5, Jean Horstman, who was sitting in Lexington Park one evening and saw the rats jumping into the open barrels. And she raised the quite understandable and apparently obvious question, why do we have open barrels in parks where there are children and rats feeding on them? Interestingly, Councilor Scott, I'm glad to hear you talk about somebody in Lincoln Park have that concern, because interestingly, in 8 years as a city councilor, I have never heard that concern expressed before. I've heard tons of concerns about rats around people's yards, but I have never heard a councilor say, and nobody has ever spoken to me about rats in open containers in parks. So I'm scratching my head and trying to figure this out. It would seem to be a no-brainer that these containers should be closed. On the other hand, there haven't been any complaints about it that I'm aware of. So I'm very interested, not necessarily tonight, but hopefully at the Public Utilities and Public Works Committee meeting, which is scheduled for the 27th of September. I'm very interested in hearing more opinions about how great a problem this is, how much of a priority spending $1 million on these Big Belly cans in parks and on the community path would be for our city. Are there better ways to spend $1 million to fight the war on rats? I don't know, because frankly, this has not been an issue in which I've taken a lead on. But clearly, there's been a lot more rat sightings this year around the city, as far as I can tell, than in the last few years. Certainly in Ward 5 there has been. Clearly it's a problem, and clearly the administration needs to answer the question, does it make sense to have open trash containers in our parks and on the community path? And if it doesn't, what will we do about it? So I'm very much looking forward to this discussion on the 27th in Public Utilities and Public Works. And I actually sent a whole bunch of questions to the administration about this, and I looking forward to their responses to those questions and others that councilors and members of the public may come up on this issue. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor Strezzo?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be brief. I do want to validate that many residents have come to me about rats over the years, and I've tracked it over the different wards, or just how I used to hear about it really bad in 1 and 4, or this region of this precinct. And then I've started to hear it more gravitate in Ward 2 and even Ward 6 and now Ward 7. So I've been following it for years, but the stories I hear, this is very much a quality of life issue for some of the residents that are most impacted by this situation with rats. They eat through wires of cars. I've heard grisly stories. I don't want to go into the details, and I know some of your counselors would hear you have stories you've heard too. We have to figure out, we have to be more proactive, and we have to be more aggressive. I'm looking forward to continuing on this conversation. Thank you.
I guess I should be grateful that this is no longer a Ward 1 problem. It's a citywide problem. So seeing no further comment, this item is laid on the table for approval and referred to Public Utilities.
And item number 10 is a resolution by Councilor Ewan Campen that the administration create a paid teen invasive plant removal program similar to the teen snow shoveling program to train young people to remove harmful invasive plants and connect them with residents desiring such help.
All right, Councilor Ballantyne would like to sign on. Councilor Ewan Campen.
Thank you, Mr. President. This was an idea brought to me by members of Green and Open Somerville, who have done a lot of community work around removing harmful invasive plants from Somerville. So the idea is this. We have a great program that many people know about in Somerville that connects seniors who need help shoveling snow with Somerville teens who are looking for paid work. And the idea is to use a similar approach, but instead of snow shoveling, we would be training teens to help identify and remove harmful invasive plants from private property, and ideally replace them with non-harmful, with native plants. So this would be an extension of the Mayor's Summer Jobs program. It's similar to something that our neighbors in Cambridge have tried, and I think that in addition to being a job opportunity, this would also be a huge improvement on our ability to actually remove invasive plants. As many of us know, I know that Councilor Davis has led on this for many years. We do a lot to try to encourage and educate the public to remove invasive plants. We often focus on black swallowwort because that is so uniquely evil in killing monarch butterfly caterpillars. There are others as well, but one of the issues that we all know is that a huge part of the problem is on properties owned by absentee landlords or just by people who are unaware of the issue or are not in a position where they can remove them themselves. So this would create a simple solution where once people are aware of it, they could be directed to a service to Somerville teens who can come help them build a native garden. So I look forward to discussing this in committee. I would ask that it please go to open space.
All right, Councilor Davis would like to sign on as well. Seeing no further discussion, this item will be laid on the table for approval and referred to open space, environment, and energy.
And that brings us to item number 11, a report of the Committee on Confirmation of Appointments and Personnel Matters, meeting on August 31st, 2021.
Councilor Rossetti.
Thank you, sir. All members of the committee were in attendance for this meeting. Additionally, I want to thank city staff, Assistant Solicitor David Shapiro, Director George Lewis, Director of Human Services Ian Gill, Chief of Department Deputy Chief Chris Ward, and James Stanford. We also had with us Director Rancanello and Legislative Affairs Hannah Carrillo. Clerks were Peter and Rose. I would like to say that it was a nice, great evening for a meeting, but we got to speak to those who and we first learned from begin the interviews.
Councilor Rossetti?
Yeah.
You're breaking up a little bit. You want to try turning your camera off?
Okay. Hopefully that will be better.
It sounds good.
Interrupt me, sir. Okay, great. Thank you. The meeting asked if the committee was going to even on the hiring status and the vacancies in the police department. I let them know that over the month of July, and speaking with the staff, I was informed that there are 11 vacancies in the department for the patrol officers. Chief Femino, there are 80 officers in the department, noting that the recently passed 2004, therefore creating 14 vacancies, all of which are the patrol officer. Reminded us the budget process involved of those that were funded for 6 months of the year beginning January. We then begin with the interviews of the first one requesting the confirmation of the appointment of Kyle Lentini to the position of Reserve Police Officer. Very detailed report of questioning by me to highlight some things of this candidate. He is currently a police officer at BU. He is a graduate of high school. He was received the award from the headmasters there of Vocational Outstanding Student of the Year before graduation. We also took a request of the confirmation of the appointment of Richard Levy III to the position of Reserve Police Officer. Mr. Levy as well is a Somerville High School graduate. I should say there is detail in the report again of the questions answered of the two candidates. On those two candidates, they were recommended out of committee for approval by a vote of 3-2. 3 in favor, Rosetti Klings, 2 opposed, Scott Barr. Next, we heard the request of the confirmation of the appointment of Michael Peroni to the position of police lieutenant. The committee had some back and forth with of experiences in the department, and there was the discussion and questioning. There was unanimous approval from committee to accept the request of this confirmation of his promotion to police lieutenant. Next, we had a request of the confirmation of the appointment of Mark T. to the position of police sergeant. Again, extensive questioning, dialogue back and forth. The committee as well unanimously approved the request, and we congratulated both, and we also will not be official until and if this report is. But the committee did thank both for the years of service to date. Last week, we took up item number 21195, which was the director of SPCD requesting to appear with the mayor's office before this committee to discuss granting special municipal employee status to certain boards and commissions. I reminded the committee that we had last taken this up in, I believe it was February of 2020. There was concern then of being comfortable to allow that. So I'm going to read the report verbatim. And then after the report, Mr. President, I would also like for us to reference but as the report is written, I know the issue it cannot be formed was previously discussed by the committee in February of 2020. There was concern among OSPC staff about this issue more recently, and it's causing a lot of stress among the staff, according to Director Proakis. Mr. Proakis did give a brief presentation, which is attached to the report. I reminded everybody that there were 40 commissions, and I am corrected on that. The paperwork we had received in the past over an update of the boards and commissions went to page 45. There was a missing number of pages. There are, I believe it's 33. 13 of them do not have special municipal employee status. By not having that status, those members are considered full-time employees for the purposes of the conflict of interest law, since the status is given to the person. Mr. Shapiro then spoke about Section 17 of the conflict of interest, explained the broad meaning of this section, and gave examples of what is and isn't allowed. Having SME status removes advocates who do that for a living. Mr. Shapiro went on to discuss Section 20, which is financial interests. Mr. Proakis stated that the boards and commissions should not be with experts, and he believed that they are more effective with of people. To that end, he would like to bring candidates forward without them having to worry about conflict of interest issues. Councilor Barr commented that this city is in the epicenter of the world's intelligence. Director Proakis commented that he doesn't want to push for this policy when he's concerned about losing someone because of it. Having more boards with this status gives the city more flexibility. Councilor Barr said that he is not receptive to the notion. I noted that it's hard to find people to serve, and I felt that SME status at this time should be granted. The City Council will have the authority to confirm or deny appointments because each candidate would have to come before the Council. Councilor Scott inquired about several exemptions and asked if an ordinance could be passed requiring the City to inform the Council of Section 20 declarations as they came in. Piero said that he would be glad to investigate that for us. Klingon said that this may be opening the floodgates for granting SME status, but after listening and having conversation with Councilor Scott and Shapiro, he felt that if Councilor Scott's proposal came about, he might be okay with it. As an aside, I spoke about the search committees going on for the hiring process for a new police chief and the outreach to receive members from the committee, and that the city had to extend that application period 3 times. Those 3 extensions still only received 18 responses. I appreciate Councilor Scott's thinking of perhaps creating an ordinance that would then bring all requests to this council so that we would be able to view them as we do before us from legal after a previous request. So that is the report. This item is in committee as we are still under discussion. So I will end the report at that, sir, but on to item 54 for further explanation of that last item.
Okay. Councilor Rossetti would like to submit the committee report as approve the committee report as submitted. Please note that I'm recused from that committee report. And Madam Clerk, can you please read item 54? You said, Councilor Rossetti.
Yes, item 54 is an officer's communication from Assistant City Solicitor Shapiro conveying opinions regarding 268A ethics disclosures and special municipal employees.
Okay, and on that, I see Councilor Davis.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I am also having some technical difficulties, so I will leave my video off in hopes that you all can at least hear me clearly. I wanted to ask and to have whether it's Councilor Rossetti or perhaps someone who's going to have a little bit better connection that can articulate, just because I apologize, Madam Chair, Councilor Rossetti, but it was really hard to hear much of what you're saying in the report from my end. The first item that was discussed was the confirmation of an officer to the position of reserve police officer, and I wanted to just understand and have explained, for at least for the public's standpoint, how that reconciles with the conversation we had back prior to the recess regarding the phasing out the use of the reserve list, and how this is consistent with that.
I'd be glad to respond to that, Mr. President. Well, he recused himself, so let me. I guess I'll take over the chair
And
of this portion.
That Director Racanello had said she might be able to speak to this as well. If that's, I'm just looking at the chat. I don't know if you can see that with the.
Okay. Well, these would be. I'll go to Director Racanello. I'm happy to. I'll let the Director respond as well. Director Racanello, would you like to take that question?
Thank you, Madam Vice President Rossetti, and through you to Councilor Davis. These reserve candidates are from the same list that was submitted. So we had this conversation about this being that we were only putting these candidates forward on the current reserve list. These are the 2 remaining candidates on that same reserve list that was put forward, I believe, possibly 2019 at this point. But they are the last 2 candidates on that list. It's not a new list.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's how I understood it. I just want to make sure that that's clear, and so that this is consistent with the conversation we had back in the spring, and when this list is processed through, we will then re-engage on the discussion of phasing out the reserve list. That's still the administration's still sticking to that commitment to re-engage that discussion at the point that this list is through. Correct?
Through Vice President Rossetti to Councilor Davids, yes, that is correct. We are still committed to engaging in that discussion, and these are the final two on that reserve list.
Very good. Thank you very much, Director Econo and Madam President.
You're very welcome, sir. So I am breaking up. I asked Councilor Scott to please interrupt me, and as Vice Chair, I'll let him take the lead, but I will continue until I'm interrupted by Councilor Scott if the need is. I'm sorry for my technology tonight. I don't know what's going on. But the communication that we received from Assistant Solicitor Shapiro does read that you have asked whether the council may enact an ordinance which requires the city clerk to provide copies of 268A ethics disclosures to the city council upon filing with the city clerk. While an order and/or request would likely suffice, in my opinion, there is no legal prohibition on such an ordinance, as the documents are otherwise public records, and the city clerk reports directly to the city council. You have also asked for the process to reach special municipal employee status. Special municipal employees may be rescinded by vote of the council, and it referred to the State Ethics Commission. It would be my recommendation to send this communication to table this communication, because I have Ms. Rankanyel, I think earlier, and asked that she direct Shapiro to go ahead and draft such ordinance for us based on the question the committee had in the committee meeting that evening. That could create an ordinance would protect the council to have it review their files with the city clerk, that we kept abreast of names of individuals who had to do that type of filing. So if there's no objection from my colleagues, I would table this communication and take it up fully at our next full city council meeting, when we will then have before us I see that on this point, Scott, I believe you wish to speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's just you were pretty broken up there, so if I can try to summarize here. I'm gonna turn it to you, sir. You take control now, since you have more clarity than my computer. Let's hope. Let's hope. So the item requesting special municipal employee status, the action on that particular item would not actually grant special municipal employee status. This was an item requesting discussion, so it being kept in committee doesn't slow down any action. What I believe the chair was trying to communicate there is that she has spoken to Director Rackniello requesting that such an ordinance be prepared, modeled after, I want to thank Councilor White for his work with the ordinance requiring the law department to keep us informed about suits against the city. So presumably we would have that ordinance before us at the next meeting, and I think, Councilor Rossetti, but I may be wrong. I think I also heard that at that meeting we would also be presented with the appropriate item that would allow the city council to grant special municipal employee status to all of those boards and commissions. Is that correct?
She may have restarted her device or something to try to get a better connection.
I see her trying to unmute. Yep.
Computer is acting up. I'm going to try to dial in, but yes.
All right, I heard a yes there. So with that, I would ask that the committee report be accepted as submitted.
Councilor Scott.
Councilor, I have a question.
Oh, Councilor White. Sorry, since Councilor.
To whoever is presiding, a couple of things. There's two things. One is the committee report, but then there was also Councilor Rossetti's motion about laying the communication on the table. My preference would be have that communication actually go to committee if there's going to be a committee meeting, and have the committee review the proposed ordinance and also the exemption that's going to be proposed for the special employees. So you'll have a committee review, and then we'll have the report where the committee has looked at both the proposed ordinance and then also the elimination of of giving the special designation to municipal employees. Because I know, see, I'm not on the committee, and I know that was an issue a while ago, so I think it would be helpful for me to have the committee look at both of those and then report to us as a full council as far as both of those items.
Certainly. I mean, both of those items would be before us at the next council meeting and could be referred to committee. But if you'd like to have the communication also referred to committee as well, I'd have to defer to the chair on when she's going to be able to schedule the next meeting.
Okay, on that, I do have a question.
Hold on real quick. This is not an item I'm recused from. So this item will be referred to committee, and we can have that discussion then. Does that answer that, Councilor White?
I think it does. Thank you.
Okay. And Councilor Rossetti moves to approve the committee report. That item's laid on the table for approval. Please note my recusal.
Thank you. So the next item is a report of the Land Use Committee meeting on September 1st, 2021.
Councilor Ewan-Campen.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Land Use Committee met last Tuesday, September 1st. We discussed two proposed amendments that we did not take any action on. They're described in detail in the meeting minutes. These were a small commercial space amendment that has been under discussion for quite a while now from Councilor Davis, and a new proposal from Councilors Klingon, Niedergang, and Davis to consider an affordable house incentive approach for owners of historic properties, and we will be discussing those more in the future. The committee did take action. We unanimously recommended approval of two items, which have also received positive recommendations from the Planning Board, and which are now before the full council. So what I would recommend is that we accept this committee report as submitted, and then when we take up those two items, we can discuss them in detail.
All right, Councilor Ewan-Campen moves to accept the committee report as submitted. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's do a roll call vote on approving the committee report so we can approve
Mr. President, I see requests from Councilor Scott and White to speak.
Oh, was that on this point or the last point, though? That was from before.
Never mind.
All right. Unless it wasn't, speak up if it wasn't, but if not, we'll do a roll call vote on approving the minutes.
Thank you. This is a roll call vote on the Land Use Committee report of September 1st, 2021. Councilor Niedergang.
Yes.
Councilor White.
Yes.
Councilor Valentine.
Yes.
Councilor Ewan-Campen.
Yes.
Councilor Davis.
Yes.
Councilor Strezzo.
Yes.
Councilor Klingon.
Yes.
Councilor Mba.
Yes.
Councilor Scott.
Yes.
Councilor Rossetti. She may not be back. Councilor Rossetti. And Councilor McLaughlin.
Yes.
That's 10 councilors in favor, none opposed, and one absent. That committee report is approved.
All right, Councilor Ewan-Campen.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. So the first item before us for discussion is number 212050, requesting an amendment to the zoning ordinance to repeal section 10.5 outdoor cafe seating. Madam Clerk, would you please read items number 47 and 55, which are associated with this?
Item number 47 is an order by Councilor Ewan-Campen that the Director of Inspectional Services, the Chair of the Commission for Persons with Disabilities, and the Chair of the Licensing Commission appear before this Council to discuss permitting and enforcement of accessibility concerns related to outdoor dining. And item number 55 is a communication from the directors of OSPCD, ISD, and engineering responding to questions posed by the Land Use Committee regarding ADA compliance for outdoor seating.
Thank you very much. This amendment has to do with outdoor dining. And I just want to briefly explain in case councilors have questions about this. So prior to the pandemic, our zoning overhaul required site plan approval for outdoor dining. And that means a special permit, which happens in parallel and in addition to additional permits, including from the Licensing Commission. And as was explained to the committee by Dan Bartman, prior to the pandemic, outdoor dining required 4 separate permits from the city for anyone serving alcohol, 3 if you're not serving alcohol. And part of the emergency order that was put in place following the outbreak, the COVID-19 outbreak, was a very rapid attempt to keep restaurants and businesses afloat by simplifying and streamlining the outdoor dining approval process, and to create a system where the permits are reviewed internally for a number of issues, and then the public process is before the Licensing Commission, and it is a single decision made by the Licensing Commission to grant these. So the amendment that's before us now would be to permanently remove the site plan approval process, the special permit process, from the outdoor dining approval process. And the justification for this is that all of the issues that would, in theory, be reviewed by the special permit granting authority, the planning board or the zoning board, are now being reviewed by other agencies, and it truly is a kind of redundant process that makes it incredibly onerous and difficult for restaurant and business owners and doesn't really add any new review. So the amendment before us is to strike that entire requirement for site plan approval. Now, in committee, several councilors raised the issue that I know all of us have heard about throughout the pandemic, which has to do with ADA compliance and accessibility for outdoor dining. And we've heard a lot of questions about how the applications are reviewed for these issues, and when there are violations, in reality, once a outdoor dining facility is up and running and there are violations, how the enforcement is working. And in particular, we've heard a lot of these concerns raised from the chair of our Commission for Persons with Disability, who's made a very compelling case, in my opinion, that this process has a lot of flaws, and that there is a lot of work to be done in making sure that these do not interfere with compliance and accessibility on sidewalks and the streets, and also that the outdoor dining facilities themselves are accessible. So ultimately, the committee decided unanimously to recommend approval of this amendment because it's not really on point with those issues. The issues around enforcement really have to do with the review process and the enforcement by ISD. And that is the reason why I've put in item number 55, which I'd ask that it please go to, I think, license and permits for discussion once we're done with this, so that we can kind of flesh out this conversation by bringing inspectional services, chair of the Licensing Commission, and the Commission for Persons with Disabilities to flesh out what some of these ongoing issues are. I also had read into the record a memo that the committee requested from the administration to lay out for the council and for the public how the permits are reviewed, how enforcement happens on a kind of rolling basis, an ongoing basis, and also how members of the public, if they do see violations, how they can be reported. That memo is now before us as a public record. I would certainly recommend that anybody interested in the public and on this council read that to get a sense of where we are currently. So all that is to say, the amendment before us doesn't, in the opinion of the committee, is worth recommending, is worth approving, because it really does streamline the process and it doesn't take away any of the necessary enforcement and review. But we also really want to acknowledge that we are not where we need to be on this issue and there is a lot of work to do. And I'm happy to answer questions on this if there are any. Otherwise, I would motion for approval.
All right, any discussion? First, item 55 will be referred to licenses and permits, and the other item will be laid on the table and placed on file. Any discussion on the items before Councilor Ewan Cambron moves to enroll in our den? Seeing none, Councilor Campen moves to enroll. Let's start with the first item.
Okay, so this will be on enrolling item 212050, an amendment to the zoning ordinance to repeal section 10.5, outdoor cafe seating. Councilor Niedergang.
Yes.
Councilor White.
Yes.
Councilor Valentine.
Yes.
Councilor Ewan-Campen.
Yes.
Councilor Davis.
Yes.
Councilor Strezzo.
Yes.
Councilor Klingon.
Yes.
Councilor Mbaugh.
Yes.
Councilor Scott.
Yes.
Councilor Rossetti.
Yes.
And Councilor McLaughlin.
Yeah. Yes.
All councilors are in favor. That item is enrolled.
All right, on ordainment.
On ordainment of item 212050, Councilor Niedergang.
Yes.
Councilor White.
Yes.
Councilor Valentine.
Yes.
Councilor Ewan-Campen.
Yes.
Councilor Davis.
Yes.
Councilor Strezzo.
Yes.
Councilor Klingon.
Yes.
Councilor Mbaugh.
Yes.
Councilor Scott.
Yes.
Councilor Rossetti.
Yes.
And Councilor McLaughlin.
Yes.
All councilors are in favor. That item is enrolled. Excuse me, that item is ordained.
All right, next item on enrollment.
Yes, so this will be on enrolling item 212052, an amendment to the zoning ordinance section 2.1 glossary and the provisions of multiple permitted building components. Councilor Niedergang.
Yes.
Councilor White.
Yes.
Councilor Valentine.
Yes.
Councilor Ewan-Campen.
Yes.
Councilor Davis.
Yes.
Councilor Strezzo.
Yes.
Councilor Klingon.
Yes.
Councilor Mbaugh.
Yes.
Councilor Scott.
Yes.
Councilor Rossetti.
Yes.
And Councilor McLaughlin.
Yes.
Yes.
All councilors are in favor. That item is enrolled.
All right, next item. On ordainment. We're still gonna go
We're so close. On ordainment for item 212052. Councilor Niedergang.
Yes.
Councilor White.
Yes.
Councilor Valentine.
Yes.
Councilor Ewan-Campen.
Yes.
Councilor Davis.
Yes.
Councilor Strezzo.
Yes.
Councilor Klingon.
Yes.
Councilor Mbaugh.
Yes.
Councilor Scott.
Yes.
Councilor Rossetti.
Yes.
And Councilor
Yes.
McLaughlin.
Yes.
All councilors are in favor. That item is ordained.
Okay, now the next item.
Now, item 13, a request of the mayor requesting acceptance of a preservation restriction for 277 Broadway.
All right, if there's no discussion, I'm going to refer this to the Finance Committee.
And item 14 is a request of the mayor requesting approval to repurpose $119,815 in the COVID-19 Stabilization Fund to support the 2021 LCC grant program.
All right, Councilor Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to also take up items number 15 through 23. There's 14 through 23 I'd like for immediate consideration, and I have to provide a summary rather than reading each of the orders.
Okay, Councilor Scott moves to waive the readings of items number 14 through 23 and take them up for immediate consideration. Councilor Scott.
All right, so this is in the first item is repurposing funds that have already been granted to support the local cultural council grant program. The numbers 15, 16, 17, and 18 are all very small, under $1,000 prior year invoices. Number 15, I apologize, is a $3,600 prior year invoice out of infrastructure and asset management. Again, all of these are prior year invoices. I've reviewed them. They appear to be in order. There is particularly time-sensitive acceptance of a grant of $300,000 per year for the next 2 years with no new match required from Mass DPH for our contact tracing program that I would ask acceptance of this evening. Item 20 is a grant of about $250,000 over 2 years for recruitment and training of community health workers that I would request acceptance of this evening. Again, with no new match required is number 21, another $250,000. This is for early childhood care and education system support. And finally, I believe number 27, item number 22, my apologies, is $45,000 grant from the Mass Cultural Council for Arts Council support. This is, again, similar to the repurposing funds that we have added there to help our arts community. And then finally, item number 23, which is acceptance of a no new match grant of $45,000 to support our summer baby outreach staff and supplies. I believe that takes us all the way from 14 through 23, and I would ask approval of all these items this evening. Thank you.
And Councilor Scott moves to approve items 14 through 23. Any discussion? Seeing none, I don't believe these require a roll call, but let's do a roll call vote just so people know that we care.
Item number 14 does require a roll call vote, Mr. President. We can roll call them all together if you wish.
Let's do that. Thank you.
Okay. So for items number 14 through 23, Councilor Niedergang.
Yes.
Councilor White.
Yes.
Councilor Valentine.
Yes.
Councilor Ewing-Campen.
Yes.
Councilor Davis.
Yes.
Councilor Strezzo.
Yes.
Councilor Klingon.
Yes.
Councilor Mba.
Yes.
Councilor Scott.
Yes.
Councilor Rossetti.
Yes.
And Councilor McLaughlin.
Yes.
All councilors are in favor. Those items are approved.
Okay, next item.
Item number 25 is a communication of 18 registered voters requesting the adoption of a zoning map amendment to change the zoning district of 51 McGrath Highway and 35 McGrath Highway.
At this item, we refer to the Land Use Committee with a copy sent to the Planning Board.
Item number 26 is a public event license for Spring Hill Block Party, September 11th from 10 a.m. to 11:45 p.m.
I hear your faint voice in the distance, Councilor White.
Sorry, the technical problem said I move to waive the readings of items 26 through 44, except for 28. So 26 through 44, except for 28, and approve them all this evening.
All right, Councilor White moves to waive the readings of 26 through 48, you said?
No, 26 through 44, except for
26 through 44, except for 28. Seeing no discussion, these items are laid on the table for approval and their readings are waived.
With regard to 28, Mr. President, I have to recuse myself.
All right, Councilor White is recused from item 28. Can you please read that item, Madam Clerk?
Yes, item 28 is a public event license for the Somerville Museum Block Party on Westwood Road on September 18th from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Councilor Ewing-Campen.
Mr. President, thank you for the opportunity. Even though I'm not being recognized, I'm the Vice Chair for Licenses and Permits. So I'm speaking since Councilor White is recused.
Yes, thank you. I forgot about that. Councilor Barr, you have the floor.
It's okay, Mr. President. So thank you for the opportunity. I have reviewed this permit and I've also spoken to Clark Wells, who's assured me that everything is in order. And I've also spoken to the ward councilor and I raised some of the concerns brought, to our attention by some of the neighbors. And he's assured me he's working with the neighbors to mitigate the impact that will be created as a result of the block party. It's been an unprecedented year for everyone, especially, like the Somerville Museum. So if we want them to stay in operation, I think we should consider, approving this permit. But I will yield first customary back to Councilor UN campaign to make a comment, and then before I move for approval.
Councilor Ewan Campbell.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Through you, thank you very much to Chair Mba. I support and agree with what he said, and I'll just add, I do support this application, but I also do want to recognize the council and myself. We've received probably half a dozen emails from residents of Westwood opposing the event, and there is a number of reasons. I think one of the issues is that there's concerns about the fact that it's a fundraiser in addition to being a block party on a private street, on a public street, excuse me. And second, of course, that it could be disruptive to residents who need to come and go during the day. And I think that these are very reasonable concerns. I also think that they can be addressed. And I just want to note that the Somerville Museum sent a very, in my view, compelling response to these concerns and how they've been working to address them. I've asked our clerk to add that to tonight's agenda if there's any members of the public who'd like to see that response. And I also just want to add on the issue of it being a fundraiser. In my opinion, the pandemic has hit businesses and local institutions, just including the Somerville Museum, incredibly hard. And we have had to be very creative about using public space, public resources to keep folks afloat during this. So you think about outdoor dining, you think about the street closures we've had, think about direct financial support to businesses. This has all been to basically keep people afloat, and this event, in my opinion, is kind of in line with that. And in terms of disruptions to the street, I just want to assure anyone who is concerned otherwise, no one is going to be towed for this. The block party, I've been assured, will take between a third and a half of the street, and if there are residents who absolutely need to come and go during that time, certainly that they will be able to do so. So I just want to assure residents that I'm happy to work with you and with the museum to make sure that concerns are addressed. And I think that this event, I hope, can be successful and proceed without too much disruption. Thank you.
I don't know, Councilor Campbell, that historic society can get pretty wild. Are you sure you want to attach your name to this?
Mr. President, I'm willing to take that risk. Thank you.
All right, take that chance. Councilor Ba?
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank the good councilor from, Ward 3 for that profound comment. So barring any objection from my colleagues, I move for approval tonight.
All right, Councilor Ba moves for approval. Any discussion? Seeing none, this item's laid on the table for approval.
Mr. President,
Councilor White.
thank you. Could you actually move to approve it now? Because then otherwise it's going to be lumped together with everything else that I got to vote on.
Okay, let's do a roll call vote on approval.
Thank you. So this will be a roll call vote on approval for item number 28, the public event license. Councilor Niedergang.
Yes.
Councilor White is recused. Councilor Ballantyne.
Yes.
Councilor Ewan Campen.
Yes.
Councilor Davis.
Yes.
Councilor Strezzo.
Yes.
Councilor Klingon.
Yes.
Councilor Mba.
Yes.
Councilor Scott.
Yes.
Councilor Rossetti.
Yes.
And Councilor McLaughlin.
Yes.
10 councilors are in favor. 1 is recused. That is accepted.
All right, next item.
So that will bring us to item number 45, a communication from a resident submitting comments regarding items 211889 and 211890, the zoning of 80 Webster Avenue.
This item is laid on the table, placed on file with copies sent to the Land Use Committee.
Item number 46 is a communication by Councilor Rossetti in her capacity as president following the recusal of President McLaughlin, conveying the selection of Stephen Fleiss and Lori Segal as the president's appointees to the Police Chief Selection Committee.
Councilor Rossetti.
Mr. President, you can hear me. I did try dialing in, and you couldn't. You couldn't hear me when I was trying to cast a vote earlier this. If I'm breaking up, I will just say, interrupt me, sir. I do want my colleagues to know that was a very difficult process for me. We had some outstanding contacted what I had come down to finalists to them during discussions. One of the strong candidates actually withdrew. So this decision did not come from me. I hope you will understand that. I also spoke with the administration about the fact that there was some very powerful cover letters sent in this process that I hope Director Melina Capers might reach out to these people who could ultimately support her in her efforts. And I was assured that was already happening, that she did see some of these resumes already. So I look forward to this process finally beginning. There's 2 appointments later on in the agenda. You'll see his before us, our appointments, and the ordinance calls for the rest. This process will begin soon. Thank you, Mr. President. He's recused himself. Colleagues, if any of you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to address them. Okay, no questions. Then, Councilor Strezzo, you have a question? You have the floor.
Thank you. Madam Vice President, I wanted to ask what the process was for you and for the decisions on, yes, what were you seeking specifically in the candidates?
I was seeking, as the ordinance calls for it, one of our appointments had to represent the minority population. Excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. There were a lot of very good applications there before us. On the committee's behalf, I read deeply their cover letters and their resumes to see what type of strengths they would bring. Strengths that will be coming. I find 4 appointments. His Honor the Mayor. This, as by ordinance, this Ms. Gill, Director Gill, from our Human Resource Department. So they will start the process, which we will be removed from, and eventually will come back to of approval comes from this council. But this working as our ordinance states until that time. But I can tell that the different strengths that are coming here for this commitment have assured me that they have the time that it will take. I honestly told them I didn't know how long this would be. I imagined a few months. I wanted to be sure that they understood that, so that they would be able to went into the next year. I also asked them, would they be open and receptive to any amendments from the community, and all candidates assured me of that. Absolutely. There's just different strengths. Their resumes, I believe, I might be corrected on that by the administration, but if any of you wish to see them, I think we can share them. To a certain extent, however, for protection from the public, or, personal information in their contacts. But
yes,
I don't know if that fully answers your question.
Yeah, thank you for that elaboration. I was looking, yes, for more aside from the ordinance. Yes, I was looking for what kind of characteristics that you found specifically important or a contribution, because as you stated, there were a lot of strong candidates, and I find that very exciting and compelling. And I was just looking for a little elaboration. So, thank you.
You're welcome. No further discussion. Is this file, Madam Clerk? Could you please go to the next item?
Thank you. Item number 48 is an order by Councilor Ballantyne that the Director of OSPCD and the Director of IAM provide updates on the 90 Washington Street demonstration project, including community meetings, timelines, construction, tree removals, road changes, etc.
Madam President, may I speak on this item? Or is Mr. President coming back?
Mr. President is recused. Madam President is not present. I am the oldest counselor, then I would be the president. I was just informed. Madam Vice President, Councilor Rossetti, are you here? Okay, then I will assume the chair. Oh, sorry.
I'm so sorry. Do you want to take it? I'm going to have you take it, Councilor Niedergang, because the technical difficulties are too frustrating right now.
Thank you. Do that. Ballantyne, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. So I would just ask that this item be referred to Housing and Community Development. I would also request that the Councilor at Large and Chair of the committee, Strezzo, see if she could put this on the next agenda. I believe that there might be a previous order talking about the demonstration project, but I really want to understand the community meeting process, the timelines, and very much distressing communication from seniors who are living at Cobble Hill about mature trees being removed from next to their buildings. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any further comment? Seeing none, this item is approved, is laid on the table for approval to go to Housing and Community Development. Madam Clerk, would you call the next item, please? Oh, Councilor Scott, did you have a comment on this?
Thank you, Mr. President. Or presiding officer, I guess Mr. President is now back since we've been moving on to items 49 and 50. I just request waive the reading of those and send those to finance.
All right, Councilor Scott waives the reading, said items 49 and 50 refer to finance. These items are referred to finance.
And 51 has already been taken up and approved this evening. Request the reading of 52 for immediate consideration.
Madam Clerk, please read item 52.
Item number 52 is a request of the mayor requesting acceptance of and approval to expend a $299,920 grant per year for 3 years with no new match required from Mass DPH to the Health and Human Services Department for a shared services excellence grant in partnership with the cities of Arlington and Medford.
Councilor Scott.
I think it's fairly self-explanatory, sir. It's a grant with no new match required. I just request approval this evening.
All right, Councilor Scott moves to approve. Any discussion? Seeing none, this item is laid on the table for approval.
Item number 53 is a communication of the mayor conveying the selection of Deha Ahmed and Kevin Dickinson as the mayor's appointees to the Police Chief Selection Committee.
This item is laid on the table, placed on file.
And that brings us to the end of the regular agenda, Mr. President.
Oh, wow. How about that? Do we have any late items?
We do indeed have 2 late items. The first is a public communication from the Somerville Museum Assistant Director submitting comments regarding agenda item number 28, the public event license for the Somerville Museum Block Party.
That item will be laid on the table, placed on file.
And the second late item is an order by Councilor Klingon that the Director of Finance and the City Treasurer create a separate revenue account for deposit of all funds received from fines assessed for violations of handicap parking, all of which is to be allocated to the Commission on Disabilities as authorized under Mass General Law, Section 22G.
Councilor Klingon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. President. Through you, this was brought to my attention by a constituent. I did look into it. I've actually spoken to Mr. Bean as well, and it's something that you can do, and it's something that the state, if you set up a commission on disabilities, you you're fully authorized to direct those funds from handicap parking violations to the commission itself solely to be used to help persons with disabilities. So it's pretty self-explanatory. I just looked for this to go to, I guess, Finance Committee. That's it.
All right, Councilor Strezzo and Ballantyne would like to sign on. Any further discussion? Seeing none, this item will be laid on the table for approval and referred to the Finance Committee.
And that brings us to the end of our items for the evening. Oh.
All right, Councilor Scott, you have a late order?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Just extemporaneous, with your indulgence, I'd like for the council to consider a resolution requesting that the administration cease the lawsuit currently being pursued to overturn the ruling of the State Public Records Office. This is a lawsuit that was just filed this week. I'll place that resolution there and then and comment on it at your recognition.
Okay. Do you have the words there, Madam Clerk?
Something close to it, yes. The late item is requesting that the administration cease the lawsuit seeking to overturn the ruling of the Public Records Office.
Okay. Councilor Scott?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is just, I was doing the reading earlier today. A public records request was made, and this is in reference to the very distressing case in the Somerville schools, one that I know that myself and several other colleagues have been working to ensure that the records of it are expunged and at the very least made clear. It's distressing not just to the parent in question whose child was directly affected, but also to a great many residents in my ward who have reached out to me about this. And I was distressed to find that when the initial public records request was rejected, the applicant did appeal that to the State Office of Public Records, and they directed the city of Somerville to at least explain why they wouldn't be releasing it, or to release a fungible version, partial pieces of this record, that the entire record could not just be withheld. And rather than accept that finding from the state office that is directed to arbitrate these kind of things, we filed suit in Massachusetts courts. I find it hard to understand how fighting this hard against transparency and the decision by the state to direct us to release records actually serves the public good. And so we don't have to take this up for approval this evening, but I just, as I sat here tonight, I could not let it go. So I wanted to at least have this item before the council. The night is young, but I'd also be happy to have this laid on the table for discussion at our next meeting. I'm not certain what committee it would be referred to, honestly. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, Councilor Barr would like to sign on, and I would like to refer this to committee, just so we can have a discussion. I'm thinking legislative matters. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, this item will be referred to the Legislative Matters Committee. All right, any other late orders for tonight? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please, let's take all the items laid on the table and do a roll call vote for approval.
Yes, Mr. President. This will be to approve items 3 through 5, 7 through 11, 26 and 27, 29 through 44, 47 and 48, 51 and 52, plus one late item, and then to place on file items 24, 45 to 46, 53, 55, and one additional late item. On that motion, Councilor Niedergang.
Yes.
Councilor White.
Yes.
Councilor Ballantyne.
Yes.
Councilor Ewan-Campen.
Yes.
Councilor Davis.
Yes.
Councilor Strezzo.
Yes.
Counselor Klingon.
Yes.
Counselor Mba.
Yes, please.
Counselor Scott.
Yes.
Counselor Rossetti.
Yes.
And Counselor McLaughlin.
Yes.
All committee members are in favor. Those items are approved or placed on file as indicated.
All right, seeing no further business before us, Councilor Bob moves to adjourn. Please call the roll on adjournment.
On adjournment, Counselor Niedergang.
Yes.
Counselor White.
Yes.
Counselor Valentine.
Yes.
Counselor Ewan Campen.
Yes.
Counselor Davis.
Yes.
Counselor Strezzo.
Yes.
Counselor Klingon.
Yes.
Counselor Mba.
Yes.
Counselor Scott.
Yes.
Counselor Rossetti.
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin.
Yes.
All counselors are in favor. We are adjourned.
All right, good night, everybody. Good job.